Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA. I'm DS, and I'm here with my guy, Dino Bam Bam. Dino Bam Bam, what's up?
What up, DS? I'm just excited to do a state of the divisions, man. It's been a long damn time since we've done one of these.
Yes, we always talk about it, but obviously this was the perfect opportunity to do that with a massive fight in the lightweight division. Of course, the lightweight weight class is what we're breaking down here, 155. The current champion, Islam Makhachev. And, of course, he's taking on Dustin Poirier. Dustin getting his, third now title shot. I believe it's his third, right?
Yeah, third for the undisputed.
Third, and right, he had the interim. And very likely last. I was reading some comments by him earlier today saying he's not even sure how it's going to go, whether he wins or loses. He wants to be with his family more, and that's all great, obviously. Before we jump into all that, did you want to give them the spiel just real quick?
Yeah, I can give you guys a quick version of the spiel. Bottom there, you guys see it. Please like and subscribe. Do it. It's not that difficult. Ring the bell. Dino, do you want to do a bell this episode or no?
Nah.
He doesn't want to do the bell, guys. So ring the bell. That's going to notify you when our videos drop. Also, again, look at the bottom. It changed. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the107MMA, the same way it's spelled on this goddamn channel.
Love it. Love it. Just real quick, what is state of the division? We're looking at, we're going to take a look. We're going to do this, first of all, for any title fights, probably, maybe the week before or at least a few days leading up to any title fight cards like this. So look out for those. And we're just giving you kind of a snapshot of what the division looks like with the title coming up on the line. Who are the real contenders in the division? Who are the pretenders? And everybody in between. And we'll touch on some prospects and a couple big fights coming up in the division. Like I said, of course, this time around, we're talking about lightweight 155. Dino, let's start first by talking a little bit about the fight coming up in 9 days here. Islam versus Dustin. That's going to obviously have major implications with the title on line. What do you think?
Yeah, obviously, you mentioned, right, the reason we're doing this or the way we're going to do these is when the title fight for that division is coming up, you can look out for a state of the divisions. So obviously the champ Islam Makhachev defending against Dustin the Diamond Poirier. It's Islam's first title defense, Dino, against an actual 155er, right? So we know how good Islam Makhachev is, or we think we know how good Islam Makhachev is. He's the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC right now, and probably well-deserved, but there is a little drawback, right? The drawback is, who'd you beat? You beat Volkanovski. He's a 45er. Go prove it against a 55er. Dustin Poirier, obviously a very legitimate lightweight. As you said, he's been in the title picture forever now. Third title fight that he's getting. And, Dino, I think for Dustin, if this is the retirement fight, what a way to go out, right? You get that title. You get to put it down in the middle of the octagon and walk out. Pretty damn awesome. And for Islam, you get to shut up some of the critics, man. If you get this win, you solidify yourself as one of the greatest lightweights of all time. I really think that, that is on the line for Islam Makhachev. It's weird, though, because usually the UFC lightweight division, probably the most stacked division in the UFC for the last decade, I would say, not really as stacked as it normally is, right? We kind of have like a weird place. We're in a weird place now where like the old guard is leaving and the new guard's kind of coming in, but I don't really think anybody in the new guard has like really established themselves. We're going to give our predictions, guys, in the full breakdown video. That'll be in the link below if you're watching this later on in the week. But yeah, man, this is a hell of a fight. I'm excited to see what Islam can do against a real 55er, and I'm excited to see Poirier go try to get it one last time.
Well, humor me real quick. So, I mean, first of all, do you give Dustin Poirier any real shot of actually winning this fight?
Look, Dino, I mean, obviously it's MMA, right? We've been watching this sport forever, me and you, and we know that everyone has a puncher's chance. Dustin Poirier, not just anyone, right? I mean, he is a legitimate threat at 155. You say what you want. Yes, Islam Makhachev is the favorite. He's a big favorite. He should win this fight. But shit, crazier things have happened, man. I saw Juliana Pena beat the shit out of Amanda Nunes not too long ago. I saw Sean Strickland beat up Israel Adesanya on the feet. So I'm not saying I think Poirier is going to win. And again, shameless plug, but if you guys want to see who I think is going to win, watch the damn breakdown video. But he's got a shot.
Yeah. Of course he has a shot, but I don't think it's going to happen personally. So it would be interesting to see. I mean, it really does nothing for the division. It's more than anything a cool moment. If Dustin wins, puts the belt down, I mean, what's next then, right? It's what are you gonna do? Islam versus Arman for the belt then?
Yeah, probably, right?
Probably. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with that, man. Obviously, that that's a huge fight. You asked me the other day. You mentioned the possibility of Islam maybe going up in weight after this. Personally, I would really hate that. I would really, really hate that. To defend your title twice against a 145er, no disrespect to Volk by any means, but not a big 155er, barely a 140. He's not a big dude. I know he used to be big and all that, but he's like naturally now he's just not that for a fighting, for fighting status. So for me to defend it against Dustin Poirier, it's not an easy matchup for Dustin Poirier. It's obviously has a puncher's chance, but the stylistic matchup is going against him. And then to beat Volk twice, a 145er twice, and then defend once against a 155er, and then move up to 170. I would really dislike that. I think that would be. It's not like he fights that often as it is. So I would really not like to see that for the sake of the division, for the sake of the sport. For what it's worth, I do think that Islam Makhachev beats anybody at 170, personally.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to pick against Islam Makhachev at this point, right? Especially considering 170.
He's huge for 155.
He's huge for 155, right? He has that weight bully kind of, thing about him. But then, man, 170 isn't in the place that it's been, for the past half a decade, let's say, with Kamaru Usman, right? Right now, you got the champion.
Two of the more stagnant divisions right now.
Right. And weirdly enough, it's the two divisions that were probably the most exciting for the last so many years. Look, Kamaru Usman's no longer the champion right now. We have Leon Rocky Edwards, who, as you just, alluded to, not very active, kind of similar to Islam Makhachev. Now we have Leon and Bilal coming up, right? A lot of people are making jokes, two of the most boring guys and all that stuff. And God knows, people ain't lying. Those are two pretty boring fighters, if you want to call them that. Look, I think Islam beats Leon. I think Islam mauls Bilal, not to, pardon the rhyming there. I don't think
they would even fight. They wouldn't fight.
Yeah, and especially because they're training together now. I think the only person with a legitimate shot at beating Islam Makhachev that I would pick to beat Islam Makhachev at 170 is Shavkat Rakhmonov. But that's another story for another time. That's for 170. I think it is possible that Islam goes up to 170. Similar to you, I don't like it for the division at 155. But I get it. I mean, if the UFC is willing to do it, he's out here looking for legacy. He's Khabib's protege. What did Khabib want? Khabib wanted legacy and out. So there is a possibility that Islam beats Dustin Poirier, goes up to 170, beats on Leon Edwards, and rides off into the sunset as a two-division champion, man. I could see it. It would just really, really slow things down at 155 and at 170.
Yeah, I would not like to see it. What about the prospect of some 45ers coming up?
All right, look at that. You said it, and I put it on the screen. How amazing is that? Look, technology. It's amazing. but anyways, yeah, 145ers that might come up, right? They're right there. Spoiler alert, right here. These three guys. Those are the three guys that may come up to 155 and be legitimate threats. Obviously, other 45ers could come up, just some big ass dudes. But look, the champ Ilia Topuria, you got to talk about that. This guy has been, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but he's been running his mouth, man. He's been talking a lot of smack about everybody. This guy is bragging like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but he doesn't want to fight anyone. He's refusing Max, and he's refusing Volk and Ortega and Yair, and all the guys in his division don't deserve it. Then they asked him about going up to fight Islam Makhachev, and this guy had the gall to say, Islam doesn't deserve to fight me. What has he done? So, look, Ilia Topuria, obviously, whether you like him or you hate him, the dude he's here to stay, it looks like, and I don't know if he's going to be active either, man. I'm worried about these divisions, dude. This guy doesn't seem like he wants to be too active. Volk was at 155. I think after this fight, if Volk continue, assuming he gets the rematch with Topuria, I think win or lose, he comes up to 55 and he stays here till the end of his career. Then Max Holloway, man, just had a huge win at UFC 300. I would love to see Max Holloway versus Islam Makhachev. Not that I think Max beats Islam, but I think that's just like theater, man. I think that's absolute scenes.
Yeah, no, that's a fight I would like to see. I still think Islam would win that. Of those three, the only one that I think is a real possibility to beat him would be Topuria. I mean, Topuria is better on the feet. He's got way better boxing. He's got power, and his grappling is really good too. So that is a fight that I would actually really like to see. I would like to see that probably more than any fight at 170 either, to be honest with you.
Well, let me say this, Dino. You say the one to beat him there would be Ilya Topuria. Lest we forget, the first Islam Makhachev Volkanovski fight, razor close decision that me and you both, upon watching live and a couple rewatches later, thought that Volk won it. So not
As long
invincible.
as I think it is different too. If Volk is moving up to 155 and is going to stay there and is going to bulk up properly and build muscle and get, kind of grow into that extra 10 pounds, I do think I could see it being closer, something that resembles more closely the first fight rather than the second fight between the two, for sure.
Right.
Still, man, I still think Islam at this point wins it, out of 10 times, maybe Volk wins 2 or 3, but it's a tough matchup for him. And there's a big size difference there, just naturally the size. Maybe it'll be different if he kind of like takes his time to get there, but he did that for the first one for the most part. But it was close. But in any case.
And really quickly, Dino, just one more thing before we move on. Speaking of that, Max Holloway did just that in this fight with Justin Gaethje. If you remember Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier last time out, when Max was at 155, he was just like a fat Max Holloway, right? He was just Max Holloway after like a weekend of drinking beers and fucking eating nachos and shit. Like he looked like a chubby ass boy, but then this time, man, he grew into that 55-pound frame and fuck, he knocked out Justin Gaethje in the last second. Like that's absolutely crazy. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Volk do it. I'd love to see Max do it. I really don't think it's time for Topuria to go up to 55.
No, absolutely.
I hate that
absolutely
shit,
not.
dude.
And that's not what I was saying either.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I don't want none of these guys right now. I don't think there's a single title holder. There's not a single guy that's holding a belt right now that should be thinking to move up at this point.
There we go.
Let's just real quick talk about Justin Gaethje. I know he's still at the top of this division. I feel like him and you wanted to talk about what? Conor and Chandler first?
That's fine. I mean, we're already here, just
yeah. I mean, look, Justin Gaethje to me is somebody who's very similar to Dustin Poirier, right? At this point, he big power, great on the feet, not as good on the ground. In theory, maybe they're solid. They're not like awful, but there's levels, and Islam has a big advantage on either one of them there. Do I see either one getting a belt? No, I really don't at this point. I really don't. But I hope they still stick around and give us some fun fights. But as far as true contenders, I mean, I don't really see either of them as a true contender.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sorry, we're talking about Gaethje and who?
Poirier.
Yeah, I mean, Poirier is a contender in the sense that he's fighting for the belt next, right? Justin Gaethje, man, he had his chances very similar to Poirier. And look, with the division being in a weird place, man, Justin Gaethje being a huge name, being your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. And again, I've said it 1,000 times on the 10-7 MMA. Please like and subscribe. I've said it 1,000 times, man. I love Justin Gaethje. He is the most exciting fighter on the planet to me. So if Justin Gaethje goes out there, Dino, and he sparks out somebody, and then you get a rising contender, or you get one of these veterans off of a loss and he knocks them out, like he's 2 knockouts away from fighting for the title at any time. So yeah, I don't know if he ever holds undisputed UFC gold, but like you said, I hope he's here to stay, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go back and let's talk about Conor and Chandler, the other big fight coming up relatively soon here in the weight class. Are they fighting at 155? They are, right?
No, they're fighting at 170.
170.
Yeah.
But they're really 155ers.
Yeah.
That's right. They are fighting at 170, which is so fucking stupid. But it is what it is, I guess. This could have, first of all, it's just a big fun fight. Conor McGregor's back. Anytime, any weight class that he's in, whether it's 170, 155, he'll never go back to 145. But 155, 170, he is the main event. He is the attraction in the sport, even now. Even are his skills where they used to be? Absolutely not. Is his motivation where it used to be? Absolutely not. But he's undeniable in terms of the pay-per-view buys, in terms of the sheer views and the attention that he brings. I mean, he's great for the sport. That's all there is to it. Chandler, you know, he's been out for what, 2-3 years now, waiting for this fight. It's been at least 2 years, right?
I think almost 2 years. His last fight was Dustin Poirier at Madison Square Garden. I want to say it was in November of 22, maybe.
Yeah. So, you know, we always kind of knew this could be the case for him. I'm excited to just at least have him active. I don't know how active Conor's going to be. I do expect Mike Chandler to be a little bit more active after this now. I mean, hopefully he might just get a big bag and dip too. He's not a spring chicken exactly either. So it's interesting. Like you said, we have a real changing of the guard kind of thing. And of the young guys, there's only one guy that really kind of has stood out, and we'll touch on him next. But yeah, I mean, it's a big fight as far as just the spectacle of it. But for me, are either of these guys true contenders? I don't see it, man. I don't think Conor's ever going to be there. If you saw him looking at the beer, at his own beer, that brother needs a drink. He wants a drink desperately. So I don't really see it, man. I don't see him now with, you know, having $1 billion or whatever the hell he has. Now, you know, it's tough, man. It's tough to sit there and motivate yourself to get up and go get punched in the face, you know, for a few $1 million, for 20 million, 30 million, whatever the hell it ends up being, you know. But yeah, what do you think about it? I mean,
look,
it's a great fight.
I mean, obviously the spectacle of this fight is unbelievable, right? It's the return of Conor McGregor after a 3-year, 4-year layoff, whatever it's been since 264. And then for what it's worth, it's the return of Michael Chandler, almost 2 years out. Michael Chandler, in that same vein, you know, cut from the same cloth as Justin Gaethje, right? Super damn exciting. I think he's a top 5 most exciting fighter in the UFC, along with Gaethje, Poatan, Yuri. Like, that's who Michael Chandler is to me. And maybe I'm a Michael Chandler fanboy, but he's really damn exciting. Then you have Conor, and, you know, anytime Conor's fighting, it's good for the UFC. Are they true contenders in the sense that I think either one of them will hold UFC gold again? Absolutely not. Again, in Conor's case, and for the first time in Chandler's case, I don't buy it at all. But Dino, man, I don't doubt the fact that the winner of this fight will probably win this fight in spectacular fashion via KO. And if it's Michael Chandler and you just knocked out Conor McGregor, you know what that does to your popularity and to your chances at getting the title shot. And I love Conor McGregor to death, but God forbid if Conor wins this fight via knockout, the UFC could easily sell 2 million pay-per-views doing Conor and Islam Makhachev, kind of like the Conor Habib 2 kind of thing. So contenders in the sense that they might get a shot, pretenders in the sense that they won't hold gold.
Do you think, like, what, you know, it'd be a fun ass fight that I think potentially could happen, maybe? What if Chandler beats McGregor, knocks him out, and then you do Holloway versus Chandler?
And that's a banger, dude. Like,
banger. That's a banger. And then winner gets a title shot for sure.
Was right.
That'd be pretty wild, honestly. I would love to see that. Although I still want to see Conor win, to be honest, obviously. I mean,
yeah, it's just, to me, it's like, it's tough, but, you know, we'll see.
It's been like 4 or 5 years since we've seen this motherfucker win. So,
yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about, we talked about a lot of pretenders right now. Let's talk about the one, in my opinion, to me, this is really a one-man weight class. Islam Makhachev is in the tier by himself. In the next tier by himself, in my opinion, the second tier is Arman Tsarukyan at this point. So give me your thoughts on Arman as a prospect and what a potential fight with Islam Makhachev could maybe look like.
Look, you know, Arman Tsarukyan has proven himself to be the legitimate #1 contender to Islam's throne. Look, man, he beat Charles Oliveira last time out. Charles Oliveira was the #1 guy. It was clear that Charles Oliveira was the #1 guy. And Tsarukyan went out there and beat him, man. He beat him pretty decisively. Was it the most exciting fight in the world? No, and that's pretty damn, you know, it's a tough task to make a Charles Oliveira fight boring. But Arman Tsarukyan managed to do that. Now, do I think he's a boring fighter? No, I don't. I think he's got very good wrestling. I think he's got the best chance in the grappling in the UFC's 155-pound division with Islam Makhachev. Remember, it would be a rematch. These two faced off in Arman Tsarukyan's first UFC fight. So I would love to see Arman versus Islam because I'd love to see the improvements that Arman Tsarukyan made. The only thing that's kind of got me scratching my head, and it might be a good thing and it might be a bad thing, is the fact that Arman Tsarukyan turned down the fight with Islam Makhachev this time out. This wasn't supposed to be Dustin Poirier. This fight was offered to Arman Tsarukyan. He turned it down, and they turned around and gave it to Dustin Poirier. So does he not believe in himself? We've seen his coach come out and say that Arman isn't ready for Islam Makhachev in terms of skills, not like health-wise or not body shape-wise or muscle-wise, just skill-wise that he's not ready for Islam Makhachev. If your head coach is saying that, that really, really gives me some pause in terms of like thinking of you as a top level prospect. So I don't necessarily think he has a chance in hell. I don't think he is the best of the rest, Dino. I just think he's on a hot streak right now, and he is the young guy, right? The rest of these guys are old, so he's on the way up as they're on the way down. I honestly think Arman Tsarukyan is going to be here to stay for a while in this top 5, but I just don't think peak for peak or prime for prime he's going to be nearly as good as most of the guys we've already talked about, to be honest with you.
Interesting. I do think he's the tougher matchup. I mean, we'll see. You know, we haven't seen that much of Arman Tsarukyan, but I really do think that he is the toughest matchup, at least on paper, for Islam Makhachev. Do I think he would win? I would still give the edge to Islam at this point. But honestly, I don't think he's too far off. But it is interesting that his coach said that. I saw that too. So, you know, we'll see what to make of that. I kind of like that he didn't take the fight. You know, whether his coach said that or not, I didn't like Volk rushing into it, and that was him obviously moving up a weight class 2 again, which is even worse. But yeah, I didn't love it. I wouldn't have loved it. I mean, so I'm kind of glad that.
Sorry to cut you off, man, but that's where I was actually going with. I didn't finish that point of it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, right? It could be a bad thing because of all the things that the coach said, and that might be true. But it could be a good thing in the sense that Arman Tsarukyan's like, you know what? No, dude, I'm not taking this fight on your terms again. I took it short notice last time out. It was my debut in the UFC. I'm not going to Abu Dhabi. I'm not going to fight you on short notice. I'm going to have a full-ass camp, and you're going to have a full-ass camp, and this is going to be a fair fight. And I think Arman Tsarukyan saw what happened to Alexander Volkanovski when he rushed into a fight with Islam Makhachev, and he's like, dude, that's not me. I got one shot for glory, kind of like Ilia Topuria had, and like, shit, the guy that beats Islam Makhachev is going to propel himself into being a superstar in the UFC.
Yeah, especially if done emphatically. I mean,
right.
That'd be nuts.
So, yeah, I mean, you give Arman a shot and, like, you know, let's just play some little imagination game here. If Arman were to beat Islam, how do you see it happening?
Man, probably most realistically a tough, close decision that ends up taking place more on the feet than you would expect, than the ground, let's say, and just lands better shots, lands more shots. But man, Islam's stand-up is improving, and I mean, he just had kick KO'd Makhachev not that long ago. So
he is,
or I could see him just sparking him up.
I don't see it, dude, because I don't really love Arman Tsarukyan on the feet, and all this is really making me wish, Dino, that we actually got to see Beneil when he was like that, you know, that number 3, number 4 ranked guy, and Islam was on the way up towards the title after that Bobby Green fight when they were matched up to fight. I really just wish, I think it was before the Bobby Green fight. That's why Bobby Green was fighting. I just wish that fight happened, man. That's one of those that got away. It's one of those that got away because that would have been an interesting grappling affair.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, Beneil rolls with the best of them. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit before we sign off here, and we'll make this quick. Let's just touch on a little bit on kind of the best of the rest, and just mention a few names that, you know, may have legitimate potential that maybe we haven't seen them in a while, and another fight coming back too. First guy that comes to mind, Rafael Fiziev, right? We haven't seen him in a while. He had a bad knee injury, right?
Mm-hmm. Against Gamrot,
in the Gamrot fight. I mean, he's really good, right? He's very, very good. He's one of the fastest strikers, you know, pound for pound that we have in the UFC. He's unbelievable. I mean, look at the damage that he was doing to Justin Gaethje for the first half of their fight. And then Justin Gaethje, just an animal, and literally just turned it the fuck up and started landing big shots. And he does so much damage with every shot, and just ended up obviously winning that fight emphatically at the end. But Rafael Fiziev gave Justin Gaethje some legitimate problems, at least for the first portion of the fight. He is somebody that I consider at least the best of the rest of this weight class, let's say. does he have the ground skills? Does he have the ground skills to hang with somebody like Islam Makhachev? I think that's tough, and that remains to be seen. What do you think of Rafael Fiziev in terms of being an actual contender here?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've talked about Fiziev, and like I love his style, man. I think like just the striking is so damn good. It's not something you see much in the UFC. It's not something you see much at 155. Like, those kicks are something crazy, man. They are whippy. They're strong as hell. The dude is tough. He has a fan-friendly style. He has a look to him. I could see Rafael Fiziev, being a star if he gets himself a couple wins and gets back in that title picture. I would love to have, I just hate that the division is where it's at, because I would love to see Fiziev versus Gamrot rematch. I would love to see Fiziev versus Arman Tsarukyan. I think that's a phenomenal fight, a clash of styles. It would be amazing. Fiziev versus a guy like Beneil, a guy that's going to be a straight grappler. Like, look, if Fiziev comes back and he's healed up from his injury, he can put anyone's lights out in this division, and he is a serious prospect, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hey, Fiziev versus, how about this guy versus Charles do Bronx is a hell of a fight.
That is a hell of a fight. As far as Charles do Bronx, man, I mean, I don't know. You tell me. That's your boy. Where do you see him fitting in now in this division? I think it's pretty clear that, I mean, maybe he could have done something against Arman. He certainly had some good moments in that fight, but obviously ended up losing it. We saw Islam, his last time out versus Islam, got pretty much dominated, embarrassed. I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, look, I think with Charles Oliveira, I think we've gotten to the point where he's just fighting to fight now. I think he's fighting for money. And I think it's pretty clear with the call outs that he's making. He's calling out Colby Covington, and that's what he wants, right? He's calling out Colby. He's asking to be the backup for Conor and Chandler. The dude is out here looking for money fights. He didn't look like he was really trying that hard against Arman Tsarukyan to me. And again, that could be me fanboying and coping, but I just don't think he gave it that full Charles Oliveira effort that we've seen in that Olive era, right? Where he was fighting Gaethje and Poirier and all those guys. And it was just like, not the same Charles Oliveira, man. Maybe he is on the decline. He might be getting over the hill, but I think at this point, he's just out there looking for bread. He's become a star. So it is what it is, dude. I think Charles Oliveira I don't see him holding gold again. I think he's just out here for 2-3 more, fights where he makes millions, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Sad to say, but yeah, I don't really see him challenging unless Islam were to retire abruptly. Maybe then that would make some things interesting again. But yeah, I pretty much agree with you there.
Yeah.
What's next on the agenda? You want to talk about a fight coming up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we already talked about Justin Gaethje. We talked about Arman Tsarukyan. Those are kind of like the ranked guys we wanted to talk about. Let's talk about
what
one
about
guy.
Gamrot? We touched on Gamrot a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really a believer in him as a true prospect here. I just don't think. Listen, his scrambles and wrestling amongst the best in the division. On the feet, I just don't think he can stand even with somebody like Islam.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Beneil Dariush again, not to beat a dead horse, but Beneil Dariush, known as a jiu-jitsu guy, we saw him drop the shit out of Gamrot. So Beneil was outclassing him on the feet. And I just think if Beneil's outclassing you on the feet at 37, 30, whatever he is years old, you just don't really have much in this division. He is a specialist in the times of MMA that we're in right now in 2024, where you can't be a specialist anymore. He's just very one-dimensional.
Yeah, I agree. I would put, in terms of true contenders, I would put Fiziev above him, even though I know that obviously the way that fight ended wasn't great. I would like to see that rematch again too, though.
Yeah, I think it gives you some clarity as to who's the real contender between the two.
Absolutely. What about the fight coming up? Obviously not in terms of any contender or pretender. Not that's going to clear anything up for us, but of course, Bobby Green is taking on Paddy Pimblett in the not so distant future here. What do you think about that?
So look, I mean, it's Bobby Green. He's a veteran. He's an OG. Love Bobby Green. You got Paddy Pimblett. He's entertaining as hell. The UFC obviously loves him. These English fans have been really damn loud lately with the Tommy Aspinall talk, and they got a card going there with Leon Edwards main eventing, so they've been loud and proud. But they love them some Paddy Pimblett, man, even though we think he's a fraud, like pretty much consensus as an MMA community, especially after that Jared Gordon fight. But shit, it means something. If Paddy can get a win over Bobby Green, who just beat Jim Miller, Islam Makhachev got a title shot after beating Bobby Green. I'm not saying they do that for Paddy the Baddy, but shit, I could see him giving Paddy the Baddy, again, not to beat a dead horse, a guy like Beneil Dariush, another fight they know he can win against an aging guy to move him up the rankings, and we might be seeing Paddy the Baddy in the top 5 in the not too distant future. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I don't think I can sign up for that, to be honest.
It's that Dana White privilege, you know what I mean? And don't get it twisted. I don't want people thinking I'm a Paddy stan. I don't really like Paddy that much. But it's just like, when the UFC wants to push,
another guy that's, say it again.
When the UFC wants to give you a push and they think you're a star and you can make them some of that coin, they're gonna do it.
For sure. No, and I don't doubt that. But do you think he's gonna beat Bobby Green?
I mean, he could, you know.
He could. I don't think he will.
I don't know that, you know, we're going to save that for the breakdown for that fight, for that card. But by the way, like and subscribe, ring the bell for that. But yeah, it's possible.
All right.
It's a closer fight than like I feel like a lot of people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, we'll see what happens there. But before we go, let's just touch on a few maybe potential prospects that we see a little bit lower down the rankings. Yeah. Anybody that you see that you can kind of maybe see making some noise.
Sure. So before we do that really quickly, Dino, we missed one guy in that like ranking area. That's your boy, Benoit Saint-Denis, BSD. So why don't you, since that's your guy, tell me what you think about BSD?
I love him. I'm still a believer. I think if he just played it a little bit smarter, he would have beaten Poirier. He was winning that fight, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think it's my opinion. I think he was pretty clearly winning that fight. You just can't stand there squared up with Dustin Poirier, even with his back against the cage. You just can't do it. So with a little bit of a smarter game plan, I think he has all the tools. He has all the skills. He's hyper aggressive. He has a chin. I know he got knocked out, but he had a good chin. I don't think this like stole his chin, but we'll see. Great power. He's good everywhere, man. He is probably the most well-rounded guy overall. I mean, in the weight class maybe. So yeah, for me, I do think he's a legitimate contender. If anybody is, I mean, I would love to see him versus Arman, to be quite honest with you. I think that's a great fight right there.
Fire. Him versus Fiziev, fire.
That's an unbelievable fight. Oh my God, there will be blood there. There will be blood in that fight for sure.
And Dino, that fight can fit literally on any card. Benoit Saint-Denis, Rafael Fiziev can fit on any card. It could easily headline an amazing fight night, and it can be on the pay-per-view portion of any UFC pay-per-view card, and the fans would eat it up. That is a phenomenal fight.
Absolutely. I could even see him against Gaethje. I don't think that's the next best move for him. I think he needs a little bit of a step down.
Yeah.
But him versus Dan Hooker, right? Like, I mean, you know, there are some good fights there that I would still really like to see for him. So I do still believe in him. I'm embarrassed that we kind of skipped over him. But let's go down the rankings a little bit and talk about some guys that are a little bit more obscure. Why don't you go throw a name out there for me?
All right. So this is a guy that I know you're excited to talk about, Makhachev Oralbai, and not just for having a fun ass name to say or looking like he's from ancient history, like 5,000 years ago, but he's a hell of a fighter, man. He showed that in his last fight.
He gets that oral and he says bye.
Yeah, he says peace. He just dips out of there. But him versus Elvis Brenner, man. Elvis Brenner was a guy that was on the rise as well. Makhachev Oralbai made that fight look pretty goddamn easy against a pretty dangerous Elvis Brenner. So Oralbai might be a guy that, you know, we look to in the near future. Do you know his age, Dino? Do you know how old he is? Him and Brenner were the same age. I think they're both like 29 or something.
28, 29.
Shit, like man. Yeah, that's somebody that I think we will see in the rankings in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I would say of all the guys that are not ranked that we've just discussed, I give him the highest chance currently of being a true contender. You know, have we seen him against the highest level of competition? No, but Elvis Brenner is really good.
Yeah,
I think I initially picked Elvis Brenner and then I switched my pick on that one. But yeah, I mean, he's really good. His stand-up's okay. The wrestling is great, right? So, you know, he's not a great matchup for a lot of people. I'm excited to see what kind of fights they come up with for him as he moves up the rankings. He does not have a fight set next yet, does he?
No, not that I know of. I'll check Tapology really quickly here. I don't
Who
think
would who is like a fight that you would give him at this point?
Well, it depends what kind of he does not have a fight, by the way. It depends kind of what the UFC is looking to do with the guy, right? Are you looking to kind of stall him out a little bit so you can kind of clear 155 up before you get him there? Or you kind of trying to give him the fast track, right? So if you want to stall him out, you probably give him another prospect, a guy, that we have later on this list, I think would be a fun fight for him. But if you're kind of looking to push him up pretty quickly, man, I'm looking through the rankings here.
What about a steamroller for Vola?
A Matt Frivola is a decent fight. A guy like Drew Dober, if you really want to kind of push him towards that rankings really quickly, I think a great stylistic matchup for Miktabek Oralbai. And then
what about like Diego Ferreira, who just finished Rebetsky? Rebetsky was somebody that we were talking about as a prospect, and he just kind of got fraud checked. So I mean, that would have been the only other guy that I would have considered like a true potential contender down the line. But now, I just can't throw him in there. But Oralbai, I feel pretty good about him.
That's a fast track push, Dino. If we're going fast track, I think a fight that I love for him is Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson obviously was on absolute fire until his last time out where he fought Bobby Green and got chin checked in like 20 seconds, which was absolutely shocking. But you give Grant Dawson a little bit of a step back. You give Oralbai a step forward. And Grant Dawson, a hell of a grappler, man, so he can hold his own in there. And I think, you get to figure out which one of these two you kind of want to move forward with in the division. I don't think that's a bad idea. Another guy I was talking about a little earlier that I wouldn't hate the prospects of them two fighting, Mike Davis, man. I know it sounds silly, but shit, the guy is super legit. We've always said that about him, right? His thing has been inactivity and injury. But he's got the physique, he's got the power, he's got the grappling. Mike Davis, a real damn good fighter, Dino. I think he's 31 years old, so he's still got some time in this division.
Yep. Yeah, I like Mike Davis a lot, man. He's got the skill set. I think his biggest thing is he just doesn't like fighting. So, yeah, which is interesting. I think there are a lot of winnable fights for somebody like Oralbai, just to go back to him real quick. I almost don't want to see him fight Mike Davis. Huh?
How about Oralbai versus Nasrat Haqparast?
I was just going to say that. I think there are some very winnable fights here for him, too, versus Jared Gordon, versus Ludovic. Ludovic Klein has a fight scheduled, and so does Jared Gordon. He's fighting Nasrat Haqparast. But, shit, I mean, Ismail Bonfim, like, you probably
Thiago
don't
Moises.
want to put guys. Huh?
Thiago Moises.
You probably don't want to put those guys against each other, Yeah. But there are some decent fights to be made there. What about Joel Alvarez? Joel Alvarez versus Miktabek Oralbai. I mean, that's a good fight right there.
I mean, Joel Alvarez not the most active guy in the world, right? I mean, he just pulled out of 2 straight fights, and he hasn't fought since 2023. I mean, if you want, why don't we just do Joel Alvarez and Mike Davis? These two guys that don't want to fight. Let's make them fight, and then like the loser doesn't have to fight anymore.
Boom. Honestly, I would love to see that fight. I like Joel Alvarez a lot. I just wish he was more active. His only loss in the UFC, or his only 2 losses, Damir Ismagulov and Arman Tsarukyan. And he's got wins over, well, mostly cans, but Thiago Moises, Mark Jacasey, right? So, and he's 6'3". But anyway, we're rambling on about that one. I think that's pretty much it. I guess you wanted to mention Chase Hooper, who I don't know that.
It was just for the memes, bro. Just for the memes. Like, look, Chase Hooper moved up to 55. He's looked, I guess, pretty good. But hey, Vince Pichel's old ass. No, I'm just playing. I'm just looking through these rankings here. Esteban Ribovic's huge win last time out against Terrence McKinney.
That's another guy I was looking at too, man. I still like Esteban a lot. I still don't quite know where he fits in.
Yeah, same, because the problem is Terrence McKinney and our boy, like Terrence McKinney's so damn like just inconsistent, bro. Sometimes he kills people, sometimes he gets killed. You just never know what T-Rex you're gonna get. Really unfortunate, because if things just been rolling a little more in his favor, he'd be one of the guys that we'd be talking about on this episode. But anyway, yeah.
Yep. That's all we got for you, man. Yeah, it's an interesting division. It's one that's very, very, very top heavy, probably as top heavy as they come. because the champ looks like one of the more unbeatable champs, I would say. And I mean, if he's never going to move down a weight class, but if he moves up, I could see him at 170. I think he'd do fine at 185. To be honest with you. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, man. Obviously, big title fight coming up in about 9 days here. I really expect Islam to just kind of reign. I think his undoing will just be whenever he decides to retire at this point. Unless he keeps going for 3-4 more years, maybe he starts falling off, but. Yeah, I just don't see him really going anywhere at this point. Still a lot of exciting things happening, though.
Yeah, I wish that the division was in a place where, we had more exciting things to talk about, more real prospects, more young prospects on the way up. But it's kind of a stagnant division right now. And that'll happen from time to time, Dino, when you have a champion that's very good. I don't want to call Islam a dominant champion yet because he's only at 2 title defenses, but he feels dominant. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's what I meant.
He has like that dominant feel to him. He has a long way to go to catch up to the dominant champions of the last few years. Guys like, like we mentioned, like Volk and guys like Usman and guys like Izzy. So he's a far way away from those guys. But yeah, man, he looks pretty damn good and pretty damn unbeatable. 155 once the glamour division, and now it's kind of in a weird place, but at least we got some star power. So Dino,
yeah,
that was state of the divisions. 155, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just real quick.
Yep.
The next title fight that we have is what? Leon Bilal?
Yeah.
So we'll be doing sometime in July then. We'll be doing, God willing, Leon versus Bilal. So that's obviously for 170. So we'll be doing the welterweight state of the divisions.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Hey, guys. So that was state of the divisions lightweight, 155 pounds. As Dino mentioned, next time you watch this series, we're going to be doing 170. We got Leon versus Bilal coming up. 170, man, an awesome-ass division. I'm excited to talk about that. DS, anything else you want to tell these good folks?
Nope. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. He's DS. I'm Dino Bam Bam. We're the 10-7 MMA. If you guys enjoyed, do like the little bottom scrolling thing is telling you to do, and like and subscribe. You're gonna want to ring the bell. You're gonna want to ring the bell because we got a ton of fucking content coming out this week. We're committing to a ton of content.
Yes, sir. We already talked about that.
Yes, we are. So, guys, stay tuned. We have a bunch of shit coming out for you guys. Also, follow us on Instagram and our TikTok with 3 followers at the107MMA. You can be our 4th follower. That's like you're catching us on the ground floor. This is like crypto. You invest now, then when we're really popular, you can just be like, man, I was number 4. That's crazy. But yeah, follow us there. We'd really appreciate that. Yeah, that's State of the Divisions. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.